All right, Kyle Hensey here, co-founder, CEO of GoodDay Software. Very, very excited to welcome Kaylin and Gabby here from Hollow Socks. Kaylin, you want to do an intro?
Yes, my name is Caitlin Mahadik, and I'm our VP of Operations here at Hollow.
I'm Gabby Lacayo. I'm the operations associate here at Hollow.
All right. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This is one of my favorite parts of what we're doing at Good Day, where we just get to get in the trenches with our operators, and truthfully, you sharing your experience is just going to help the next entrepreneur. That's the purpose of this. So let's start at the brand. Like, holy cow, has the brand had just a wild year? I know from being in the trenches a bit with you operationally, it has indeed been wild on the
Very
operations
much
side.
so.
Talk to me about the like, give me the like basic brand intro and kind of how you are where you are as a brand.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're Hollow. We make socks. Our main, distinguisher here is that everything we make is from alpaca. So it's truly, a premium performance sock. They're mostly for like more technical use, like work outdoors, but we do have a lot of great like everyday wear as well. But we manufacture everything ourselves here in the States, sourcing all of our alpaca from Peru. Um, so, you know, Here on the ops side, we're beginning to end where we're sourcing the raw materials from Peru, all the way through from production to fulfillment. And then our lovely CX team as well. Yeah, scale wise, we've essentially continued to double every single year. Um, so with that have
Wild.
obviously been a few growing pains. Um, with, both our inventory footprint increasing in 2025, we doubled our SKU count.
Wow.
So, we're still relatively low SKU count in the grand scheme of things. We're just above 100 now at this point. But to double that year over year was a big change for the team. And then obviously scaling the way that our growth and marketing team has been able to just literally set things on fire. Um, Good Day has helped us to, tighten things up a bit. Actually have a source of truth. Figure out, which way is up much more easily.
I love that. I love that. And so talk me through maybe was there an operational breaking point where you were like, hey, like, oh man, I'll give you a quick example. At Chubby's was definitely starting to watch our wholesale business take off while our ecom business was accidentally stealing its inventory constantly. We were like, our our spreadsheets are broken. They don't work anymore. Like, what do we do next? I'm really curious. Was it something like that that was kind of a moment, or like
I think
what
there
was that
was
moment?
probably a few moments, to be honest. That is definitely one of them, though. Our primary wholesale partner up until now has been Shields, and this
Oh,
past year has been extremely successful with them. And, very much that of Shields needs this inventory, but so does D2C, and hey, don't forget Amazon over here as well. So being able to balance the priorities and actually, know what we can accommodate. I think part of this that's unrelated but related is we did not have a great 3PL partner going into this, and inventory was constantly a question mark. I genuinely couldn't answer questions for the team about where our inventory was at because there was just adjustments being made constantly. And we corrected a couple of issues
good,
this year.
good, yeah, yeah. And talk me through if you rewind back to the pre-good days. Talk me through the system setup. Shopify, obviously, spreadsheets primarily.
That was basically it. Very, startup-y, making it work with the tools that we had. But yeah, everything Google Sheets. Um, It's not like we had any other ERP to speak of, no
Mm.
planning tools, nothing.
Man, I think I'm perpetually amazed by how just like having smart operators and having simple systems. One of the big things with Good Day, right, is like the ERP landscape we were stepping into was like very heavy, very clunky. And our view was like, what if it just doesn't need to be that clunky? What if it could just be dead simple?
Yeah.
And so the baseline assumption is these brands have done a killer job of like building whatever they needed in spreadsheets. And we want to be the best system that is most easily kind of transported from those spreadsheets into a simple format that they can begin to operate systematically and centrally for the first time, which is always a new a new flow, requires some change management. Maybe talk me through as you were onboarding with GoodDay what the process of onboarding was like, but then also specifically like what was that change management like? What does it feel like? Who was involved? Like kind of paint the picture for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's, a positive and a negative, but the team here is extremely small. So really the change management was for Gabby and I. So that made it a little bit easier that we
Yeah,
didn't have, a huge team or a bunch of cross-functional partners to update in this process as well. So we had it easier in that sense. Um, but as the team is continuing to grow, I'm sure that'll become more of an issue. But luckily, as you know, Kyle, had some history with GoodDay
yeah,
that I went through a huge ERP implementation during my time at Dr. Squatch. I got to see, the mothership that is NetSuite and what that implementation looked like, and took a full year and was wildly expensive and, you know, hopefully has been a huge value add for that team since then. But
yeah,
I knew coming in here that we needed something to help. And like I said earlier, to have that source of truth and centralization, but it didn't need to be that. Like, I
yeah,
think the most impressive thing to me about Good Day is that y'all have been able to like update an industry that feels so stagnant and old school when that's just not how things work anymore. Um,
yeah,
NetSuite is
totally.
the biggest, has been for a long time for a reason, but like things have shifted and that's not how brands work anymore.
Yeah. I
So I
was
think it's
telling
been easier because of all that.
I love that. My this always makes me feel old, but my view of NetSuite is starting to get too old. Like I don't even
Yeah.
I don't even remember. That's like a real modern view of the latest version. But that's kind of like when we started Good Day 3 years ago, there was a real question, even in my mind, being like, I really believe that even these smaller brands need these tools, and the tools should not be so complex. Like that
Yeah.
was a foundational belief. But then there's this backup question that's like, I don't know, can you make it that simple? Can you actually execute that? And what's
Yeah.
cool to hear through your story, and now, now we have over 40 brands using Good Day. It's like it really can be that simple. Like it can be
Yeah.
much more Shopify centric. Exactly what you articulated, where you're like, it doesn't make that much sense to me that it's that hard, that it should take a year to set this up. And
Yeah.
truthfully, it doesn't need to. Like that's the reality. And look, I think it all gets back to this kind of central philosophy, which is when you're building one of these brands, you get so passionate about what you're doing, you imagine you're the only person doing this like this way, and you're imagining a very unique snowflake. And that's true in a lot of cases with the brands themselves. But when you get into this part of the business and the operations, you're managing inventory, everybody's writing POs, everybody's receiving goods in their warehouse, they're shipping goods out to customers, they're making sure they keep their customers happy, etc. And like you really can simplify this part of the technology stack. And I think your example you just described is like a really, really good kind of, notch in the win column for that.
Yeah.
I want to switch over to Gabby. Gabby, maybe if you could talk me through like what's it like day to day in Good Day? How are you using it? What are the first things you dive into? What do you go to next? Like just like talk me through how you use the platform.
Yeah, so typically right away in the morning, I'm working on like inventory reconciliations, just making sure we have a clean slate to start the day. But then typical day-to-day use, I'm working on updating our purchase orders, if we have any incoming inventory. Um, Once that's checked in, I'm working on the receiving end of it, ensuring that everything all matches up and I can easily just update the purchase order directly in the system that way. Um, it's really nice how everything just seamlessly connects between our WMS and GoodDay. So then there's not too much back and forth that needs to happen. In the beginning, on our onboarding, there was like some tweaks that we were still figuring out. But now that we are further into it, it's so nice just to know that it's accurate and we can kind of just take it for what it is. Um, but yeah, and then before we expanded our team a little bit more this year, but I was working with like our sales orders a lot on the wholesale side and getting those in there. The integration with the WMS there is also super helpful. So we don't have to manually create those orders on that side. So it's just been really nice, a good source of truth. Also being able to export the data out of there and knowing that it's accurate is really nice versus having to track down each individual shipment and receipt and having to compile a spreadsheet that way. So I really do like the just big data dump I can get from it as well.
Heck yeah. I love that. I love that. And we're doing, um, we'll talk about this over the next couple of months with you guys. We're doing a lot of work now that we have all of this valuable data centralized and helping you mobilize it. Maybe you want it in your own BI tool. Maybe you want it talking to MCP tools that are talking to ChatGPT, right? Like, so we have a big kind of internal initiative to extend the value of all of that
Nice.
data that you've worked hard to put into place. So I think that's going to be like a really exciting way to kind of supercharge what you were just describing. Um, so so maybe let's talk a little bit about some of the qualitative stuff. Like, what's it like to work with the GoodDay team? I don't know if this is a Gabby question or a Caitlin question, but trust you guys.
Probably both. I mean, we've primarily worked with James throughout our entire onboarding, and he has been so great. He's one, obviously knows Good Day extremely well and has been able to successfully guide us through the onboarding and like, the first few months being on the platform, but just like he almost feels like an extension of our team. He's been able to support us. I touched on we had some bumpiness with our 3PL, but we literally had to pause this entire implementation so that we could change 3PLs in the midst of all of this. And he was there with recommendations, connections, advice throughout the entire process. And we actually ended up moving to a 3PL partner that he recommended. So to be able to have him
Oh,
as a resource as well as the support throughout all of the bumpiness of this is just invaluable through a big shift, to change
yeah,
3PLs, to implement an ERP, implemented new order for the wholesale side of the
yeah,
business. There's a lot happening at once.
yeah.
And so he gave us like the breathing room to be able to work through all of that.
I love that. Gabby, any immediate thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, James is great. He's been super responsive and wanting to make sure that we're set up for success in Good Day. Any like issues or questions, that come up, he investigates them for us, escalates them if needed. So he's been
That's
great.
awesome. Yeah, we just had our whole team here in Austin for 3 days, and this is one of the things we were celebrating as I was reflecting back in 2025, is that the entire team, the engineers as well, every now and again we'll have to pull engineers in if something like from a tech perspective is not working right. I told the team, I was like, man, I'm really proud how operationally involved we are in our brands. Like they trust us, we love working with them. There's like a mutual thing that is true. It's true for you guys at Hollow. It's also true for all of our brands, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so we're really trying to lean into that over time. Like, how can we keep that at the like kind of core engine of Good Day? And one of the things that's a really interesting output of that is like, truthfully, we get our best ideas from you guys in the trenches. We just do, right? So we're in there all the way with you, Gabby, or you, Caitlin, and like, oh man, we have this coming up around the corner. We're starting to really take off. We have to be ready for these 6 new accounts that just showed up and they all want us to be EDI ready, right? It's like, okay, well, we better better make sure we can support that before it arrives, right? So we really do feel like and appreciate you including us on your growth journey. It's such a wild journey, but also really cool to hear you describe, Caitlin, how you've put these kind of key pieces of infrastructure in place. And I found myself wondering, I'm like, man, you could totally imagine that exact infrastructure being there for like 5 or 10 years. Like
Yeah.
what are the reasons you would need some other huge piece of it's like really hard to imagine actually.
Yeah, yeah, no, very much so. No, it's I've been calling this past year for us like a foundational year. Like we finally
Yeah,
got the things in place that we need to help us
totally.
continue to propel forward. So it's
All
been,
right.
yeah, now we got to do
Time to
it.
now we got to dial up growth. Here we go.
Exactly.
This
Exactly.
this is always a hard question. It's even hard for me to answer sometimes. I think this is probably a Caitlin question. As you look year over year, like how would you describe the actual impact of having a system like GoodDay in place? Is it more accuracy, time save? Like when you like really honestly assess your window of time here for Hollow specifically, like what do you think is the like really like, oh, this evolved us?
I think the biggest thing would be the time save. So the way that we operate is we will place bulk POs with our co-mans, but we get weekly shipments. And so the amount of time it took to, in a Google Sheet again, to see, okay, here was the original PO. Here's what we've received on this week. Oh, wait, actually, here's what the 3PL is saying that they've received. Go back to the co-man. Like doing that whole dance was such a time suck.
Wow.
So to be able to clean up that process alone has been monumental for us that we can, you know, trust
Yeah.
that the inventory that we're seeing is accurate. Sure, we're always going to have an issue with a packing list here, or delivery there, like that's inevitable. But to know that like we have that backbone to lean on with our inventory has been really huge.
I love that. Gabby, anything in your world? Feel free to punt if there's nothing that's top of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree the time save has been a huge part of it. I mean, honestly, just working with all of the numbers in general, having it in one spot is amazing.
That's awesome. Man, yeah, that transition to your first kind of centralized system is always a funny one to me because you're like so used to being in the spreadsheets and they're like limitless
Hmm.
customization in every direction. There is always this like natural entrepreneurial hesitance to be like, I'm in a system now. Like, but then it's like you need to really get that leverage quick, or you won't do the work to keep it updated, right? And
True.
so it's cool to hear you guys have kind of like navigated through that. You're getting the benefit. You did the work up front to get there, and hopefully we're in a place where we're going to scale out of it. So very, very cool. All right, so last question for you, Caitlin. So think about you a year ago. What advice would you give you from an operational perspective 12 months later?
Um, Trust your gut. When I first onboarded, which I haven't even been with Hollow for a full year. It's been almost a year. It'll be a year
Yeah,
next month. Um, I knew we didn't have the right 3PL partner in place, and they ended up being the bottleneck that delayed our implementation and just caused a whole slew of issues for us. And so we went through a whole RFP process, decided to just stay put because who wants to transition 3PLs? Nobody ever wants to do it. It's not fun.
so hard.
And then went through the whole process again when we realized that they were not going to be the best partner to support us with this implementation or for our growth moving forward. So, yeah, my biggest takeaway from this past year has just been trusting your gut. If you know it's not right, you just got to move, rip off
Just
the
gotta move
band-aid
quick.
and yeah, keep on
I love
chugging.
that. I love that. I think that's like such a good That's like such a good thing to share for almost anybody in the entrepreneurial world. Like anyone working for a company that's less than 50 employees. Man, your intuition as an operator is such a strong input. It does not require a bajillion reports and a bunch of
No,
things that are quantified. It's like, nah, it doesn't feel right. Like I can't imagine a world where 3 years from today this is working at all.
yeah.
So let's just go ahead and make that change. I've lived that in a brand at Chubby's for a decade. I live that in GoodDay every day, still today. I even have those moments as the third company I've started where I'm like, I still have to coach myself up on that because some of these things you just don't want to do. You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, like, oh, do I really? Am I going to spend the next 2 months of my life making this whole thing work? So I love that. I love that advice. That's really great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate you giving back to the GoodDay community and excited to build with you in 2026.
Same. Thank you so much.
You.